Hi, I'm Jordan Speidel.
I'm Macy Escherman. So, chapter 9 was basically all about co teaching, and a big part of it that I took from that is like to have co teaching work, you have to have co planning, co instruction, and co assessment. Those are three big parts of co planning. And a major part of it is that you have to have effective collaboration. I thought it was really funny how the book described it as like a professional marriage because throughout your time you are going to have like conflicts. There's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. So I thought it was like that was a good analogy to describe it as. So for co-planning, we learned that time is not always used well, but it's a necessary part of co-teaching, and you have to like put all your distractions away, you have to put your phones away, you have to set aside a time that's uninterrupted so that you can collaborate together and plan your units out. And also within co-planning, I learned that the gen ed teachers usually bring like the curriculum, the pacing, and the classroom management side of it, and then the special ed teachers will bring like the knowledge of specialized instruction for students with disabilities, how to collect data, and UDL and differentiation. And then the second part would be co-instructing, and it's super important that both teachers have an active role in teaching so that the students don't like start to think of you as not equals, as like one teacher being like more of like an aide in the classroom and like not as important as the other teacher. And also respecting and trusting your co-teacher is a huge part of it, because if you don't respect and trust each other, then you're not going to have great collaboration in the classroom, and the kids are going to catch on that you're not working well together. And then the last part is co-assessing. And I learned that there's 4 different times when co-teachers are supposed to assess. You have to start at the beginning of your co-teaching journey with the new classes. You have to discuss assessing before a unit of study, during instruction, and after instruction. And it's super important during your meetings to openly share your assessment philosophy and ask each other different questions and just basically learn how everyone thinks about assessment, because everyone comes with different knowledge, everyone comes with different expectations. And it's also important that you stop saying like my students and your students, because if you're collaborating effectively, then every student is your student. It shouldn't just be like, okay, the gen ed teacher is going to take these kids and the special ed teacher is going to take the kids on IEPs. Like they're all your students. And you have to stop complaining because it has to be done. Everything will work out. You can't complain to other colleagues about your co-teacher. You just kind of have to get it done and work with it. Like they said, it's kind of like a professional marriage, so you have to just deal with it and roll with the punches. And you have to start planning before the year starts. You have to be consistent every year, or else you'll never get to being like the perfect co-teachers. And it's important to mix it up because there's all different ways to co-teach. And it's important to keep an open line of communication so that each person is comfortable. And then in chapter 19, it was a lot about making connections between school and home. And some of the different issues that can arise are that all families have different dynamics and they're all made up different ways. Some teachers also lack the professional development needed to understand how to communicate. And also there's an expected role of parents to be a shared educator, but that's not, they are the children's first teachers. They're supposed to teach them like the ground rules, but at the end of the day, the teacher is the educator, and it shouldn't all be on the parents. And you also can't assume anymore that children come from 2-parent households. There's all different types of families out there now. And you also have to think about how you word things when you send letters home. Like you can word things in a way that can make people feel uncomfortable and like not really want to communicate with you because they'll feel that they're not getting respected. And also, something that I never thought of before was that different cultures value education differently and they interact with people of authority differently. And in some parts of the world, educators are seen as the authority person, so they don't want to question you, they don't want to ask you questions because you're the authority person, so what you say goes. And I never thought of that before. And a way to connect with your families is to find out their story. Ask questions, talk to them, and avoid assumptions. You can't assume that a parent isn't responding to you because they just don't care. There's probably a billion other things going on in their life. They might have other children at different schools to worry about. And you have to disconnect your own personal experiences from those of your students because everybody has a different story. You can't just assume that your life matches theirs. And then home to school with exceptional learners was another big part of this chapter. You have to use open communication, and you have to have ongoing communication. Parents don't just want to find out that their kids are failing at their report card. They want to hear the good things. They also have to hear the bad things, but you have to make time to make the calls to them to tell them that their kids are doing great. You can't just always make the failing phone calls. And then another big part is to use technology, like weekly emails are an easy thing. And then if you find that parents aren't communicating, maybe take a look at their life and understand that they might have no time, or that they might feel that their opinions don't matter because of past negative experiences and things like that. And I think that we can take a lot of these things that we learned in these 2 chapters into our own classrooms, especially with co-teaching, because we will all be working with our CMTs, and we'll all have to figure out a way to collaborate and bring our own ideas into the classroom. And I think even in future life, the home to school connection chapter is really neat, because I learned a lot of different things that I would never have thought of, especially viewing teachers as authority, and they might not want to question you, and just making sure you have open lines of communication with everyone.
So yeah, basically, relating this all back to the module videos that you posted, it's a lot of the same stuff, just making sure that, you are the teacher, and, with the collaborating, that it's fair between both. And, I actually am in a co-taught classroom this year for my placement, and a lot of these things I see every day. I see my teacher and the intervention specialist, work well together. They really do have a professional marriage, and they've been teaching together for about 3 years, and they just kind of feel each other out now. My CMT knows exactly what the intervention specialist is thinking, just based on the kids she pulls, or stuff like that. But it is also important, that was noted in the video, that you make sure you're not taking the same kids every time. So you want to make sure the intervention specialist isn't just taking the kids on IEPs, and you want to make sure the gen ed teacher isn't just taking the other kids. You want to make sure that you mix up the groups, because we're still trying to work on inclusion. So maybe the intervention specialist takes a small group and works on, something that the kids are struggling on, or the gen ed teacher takes a small group this time, and the intervention specialist leads large group, and the the gen ed teacher takes the small group, which, is different than most other cases, because, normally you think about an intervention specialist, they just pull the IEP kids and they're just in there for a little bit. But with this co-taught kind of way, then the intervention specialist has more of a say in the classroom, and they're just it's literally just a co-teacher, and establishing that authority is key. And that's about it.